Hey Copic crafty friends, Michelle Houghton here. I know it has been a long time. I have shifted locations and I'm now in this very tiny little space that's getting very little natural light. Not only in Alaska are we starting to lose our daylight, but we had rain for about 2.5 months, and I'm not joking on that. It has been gray and cloudy, which actually where I live in Alaska is not the norm. So I'm really struggling with the natural light. So I apologize in advance for the lighting in the next group of videos, because I am going to try to do a few. But that's where I'm at. So I'm going to do my best and we'll go from there. Today I am doing a very quick little tutorial about some no-line coloring with a new set from Kraftin Kimmie. This is a poinsettia set that I actually was part of the creation process. I drew the little poinsettias and holly leaves and branches and added the sentiments. So this is one of the new sets for the month of September of 2022. And then when I put the card together, I'm also using the new ink color of the month, which is Original Olive, as well as a new stencil that came out this month from Kraftin Kimmie as well. So lots of fun products from them, but let's do a little no line coloring. So I'm going to use a series of reds. I have R85 to start, and most of the time, couple of things I've got going here. I've got reds, which tend to have a little more punch to them, but I'm also doing that no line coloring. So I'm going to do smaller portions. I'm not going to try to do the entire flower at once. I'm also going to work from dark to light, because that is going to be helpful with both the no line coloring as well as working with reds. All right, we're going to try this one more time. See if I can get through this without a phone call. It's debatable. So I started with an R85 and I'm shifting to an R83. Now this I colored yesterday. I don't know if you can tell, but the lighting has changed significantly. I have a little more light today. It is still extremely cloudy, but it's a little bit earlier and I managed to fight the blinds up. So, but it's also a good example of, with Copic, how you can come back to an image and those colors are still going to blend together. You have not lost the opportunity. I think I just colored outside of the lines. I did. There's a little leaf right here that I just lost those exterior lines, and that's part of why I do the lighter first, or the darker first, and work to lighter, so that I don't lose that. I think some of this is coming back to this image the day after. Now I used pale pink ink for the stamping, and that works really well for no line coloring. And for this image in particular, now with a pink poinsettia, I'm going to move on to the next petals here. Starting with the R85, and then we'll move through the R. We'll go ahead and frame out this little guy, R83 and R81. With the pale pink poinsettias, you also can end those petals in a white, like a fade to white. And that actually, with these R8s, works really, really well. They fade to white really easily, so it's definitely a color you can do that with. With the no line coloring, you just need to be aware that obviously then you're going to see that pink stamp line, so you have to decide, okay, am I going to do a darker background that's going to accommodate for that? How am I going to make those lines disappear. Because if I fade to white at the edge of the petal, you'll still be able to see those pink stamp lines. So then you have to make that decision of, okay, if I'm going to extend that, how do I've made these back in here disappear, but how do I make the others disappear? Let's see. Pretty good. Let's go ahead and I'll get these two done, and then I might get us a little closer, and we might even speed up for a few of these. Haven't done that in a while, but that might be okay. So R85. I think this is going to work better what I did on this last set. So I could do these two big ones. I could come back and do this little one, ones that aren't sitting on top of each other. And that's going to help keep those separate so I don't lose. And then the R83. Don't forget to spin your image as well. I think I've been doing this long enough that my hand tends to flick in different directions pretty easily, but most of us have a direction that our hands work most comfortably, pulling that marker in a specific direction. A lot of right-handed people flick most easily from right to left. Just the way we're hooked up. So kind of play around with that if you haven't ever before and figure out what works best for you. But as I speed up, I think I've been doing this long enough that I tend to spin my paper less. And so I do want to remind people to do that as they're coloring. All right. And that little guy. Oh, two. These will be darker. And remember with Copic, the other thing is as you layer 2 and 3 layers of even the same color, you're going to get a darker shade. So even if I don't want to go to an actual darker marker, I can still get this color to appear darker where it's bumping into these other petals just by going over that very carefully multiple times. Let's see if I can get a better angle on this little guy. There we go, a little better. Push that petal that I'm coloring back. And then R83, probably finish these two petals off. They can stay darker. The other thing I can do, of course, is come back in with either a complementary color or a blue violet. It's a little quiz for you. What color, if I'm working with a red, what color is a complementary color to the reds? So the one that sits across from a red on a color wheel is the complementary color, and though that is green. So if I wanted to use complementary colors to push that back, I would actually look for a green. And in this case, more specifically, something that is desaturated. So remember, I'm working with R8s. I would actually look for like the G8s or G9s probably to do that. So I'm trying to see what I have that might even be reasonable. And I'll test it first. I am definitely not going to put this directly on. I don't think this is. Oh, I have a tester over here that I played around with the colors. So this is, what if I did? It's pretty. That's a little better. I've got a G8 and a G9 to see if one of those. I'm liking the G8. 5. I have a feeling there's a G8 too. My concern with that, because it ends, one other one I'm going to pull out, because it ends with a 2, sometimes it'll have too much alcohol in it. Yeah. So it's going to start pushing that color like the colorless blender. The other one that has a pretty cool tone to it is the G4s. It's still pretty green, kind of gets minty. I think that's not. Try that on its own. Yeah, it's not really. I think this one with the, so G85, I think that's the one. Yeah. So where I'm looking for is the deepest spots, so I can push that back just a little bit further. So I'm going to come in and hit these little corners around that one. And I'm going to hit right behind all right, and there we go. So then you can kind of play around with how much of that you want. You can do limited, you can add more. I'm going to leave it at that, just some touches. So that's the G85. And then I am going to hit it one more time with my R. Eight, 5, and if I need to, I can go back through my whole series. Obviously, this was kind of an afterthought in this particular case. Most of the time, or a lot of the time, I would actually lay that down first, do a little underpainting. So it'll end up being a much darker flower because of the order I'm doing this in. If I'd done it first, those colors would stay lighter and more delicate, but I decided to add this in after the fact, so it will definitely be a darker look, and that's okay. It's just what it is. And you can kind of decide. One of the really nice parts about a flower is you can always decide how much of your strokes, your brush strokes you want to see or not see. You get to make those choices. On a flower, I don't necessarily feel the need to have perfectly smooth petals because flowers have vein work, and so I don't ever feel the need to get glassy smooth. These are actually pretty smooth, but I'm not looking for like super smooth, but I like that. I'm a person who likes a little more contrast, kind of higher contrast. Oh, that's probably why that didn't work. Michelle grabbing funny things. Okay. All right, and then we have a couple little things I'm gonna add some yellow onto the little stamen pieces at the center. And these are not going to be exact. I can't even really see them completely. If I'd stamped it in black, I would be able to, but I didn't. And so I'm going to kind of guess at these. I can always pull the stamp over and see if I can't see. That's not really going to help. I'm going to have to separate it. I can kind of see where those go. Looks like I added one. I did. There's not one there, but oh well. Other than that, I actually got pretty darn close. We'll do that. It's a good little cluster of them. The beauty, as always, is no one else knows, so I can put that on there and go with it. So that was Y28 and this is Y21, and I'm just going in and circling into the center. Now this has created a pretty distinct edge. I'm probably going to soften that a little bit. Give me a second. We're going to add that one little random out to the side. I don't mind it, so we'll leave it. So I could use an in-between color like a Y26. I'm going to hit it a second time with the Y28. Close it in just a little bit. And then I'll get the leaf. There we go. That's a little bit better. I just want to give it that sense of roundness, but not necessarily a distinct outline. That's what I was avoiding. All right, and then I'm kind of hoping I wanted to match the new ink color that I used on the stencil, the olive. That's this, and so I think I'm going to use the YG9s on the leaf, which will actually look somewhat similar. Yes, it does, to the Y28. That's okay. And then the YG9s, this one is YG99. And then, or that's the 9.5. And then there's a 9.3 and a 9.1. We'll see what these kind of work out to. Haven't used these in quite a while. They're not ones that I pull out of my set very frequently. I'm truly pulling them out because they match that ink that is new this month. And so I thought that might work well. All right. All right, down. And here we go. If there's, I'm trying to remember. So there's also a YG97 and 99. This is just way too close for my taste. I need to bump that. There we go. That feels better. Okay, so that's the YG97. I'm thinking about leaving the background actually white on this. So this will get trimmed down, and I've got some layers that it will sit on top of, but I'm thinking just really clean and not filling in that background. It just appeals. So I will attach the finished card at the end of this. I am hopefully going to be doing some more coloring, so I'll have some more videos for you, including more color families and more finding color combinations, because I know those have been a big hit, and my goal is in the next month or so to also have kind of a paper comparison thing, just to show you guys some paper comparisons in real time. Thanks for rejoining me, and I will see if I can't get a few more of these out there to all of you. Have a very happy, colorful day.